How's it going? So I'm going to be explaining a guide for the teacher on how to use the resource effectively in in my class. So the model that I've created, or the two portfolios that I've created, is based around teaching the stairs to students, specifically focusing on the stride calculation. So the relationship between the average stride plus two risers plus a going has to be equal to the average stride, um, so that the user can go up and down the stairs easily and safely. This is something that we'll be really emphasizing with the students throughout the project. However, so for the time being, I'm going to just be explaining how a teacher should use this as a guide. So I've shown here both portfolios. I have I've shown a blank portfolio here, or actually, sorry, this is a completed portfolio by a student. It's an exemplar portfolio of how it could be done, including videos and SolidWorks models and sketches. So the students will be creating the project in pairs, but they still just create the one portfolio between them, and they'll be able to work together to do it, and they'll make one model. So I've supplied a blank and a completed portfolio. So the blank one, obviously, the student is going to be able to hand out, or the teacher will be given to the student. The teacher will then have an example portfolio that they'll be able to use for their own reference when correcting or when having a look and seeing how the students are getting on. So this portfolio, or this problem-based task, is really situated in the constructivist learning approach. So the students are going to be able to create their own connections and meanings to different aspects of the topic. This really conforms with John Dewey and the learning by doing. So students are going to be active in their learning, and they will be able to create their own meanings of things. Also, if we put this into the idea of Kolb's learning cycle, there's going to be an awful lot of concrete experiences. So building the model and calculating scales and stuff like that. Active experimentation, so students are going to be taking videos and analyzing videos to try and find a scale and calculate their average stride. And they'll also be maybe coming up with their own experiments of how to find the scale, or do we need to have, say, are all risers going to be the same height, or do we measure from the top of the floor, from our fitted floor and stuff like that, just so that when they're actually making the model, that all steps are equal and to scale. They'll have to really focus on the method that they're using to construct the stairs for that. Abstract conceptualization, then, all still in Kolb's cycle. So the students will have to be visualizing what it's going to be like for our model. So our model, they've calculated that's going to be scale 1 to 6, but that might be a hard scale to understand for them, and they might struggle to see exactly what's going on. So they'll be able to have to visualize how it looks when they go up the stairs, and does that look right when the model is on the stairs. And then reflection and observation. So there'll be an aspect of self-assessment in this portfolio, where when the students are making the project, they're going to be able to assess each other's ability to mark out correctly and accuracy. So say one student marks out one stringer and the other marks out the other before they even start cutting, so we're not wasting material. They can swap over stringers and assess each other's work. So that's going to be where peer assessment will be able to come into the portfolio as well. So the guide I'm giving now is only a recommendation, and it really depends on the student's class or the teacher's class, and they'll know themselves. But a teacher should be able to adapt this guide to suit their class and use very similar, if not the same, portfolios, because they are effective and very interactive for the students. So I've planned this to last for 120 minutes, which is 2 double periods in a school where I'm going to be teaching. The reason for this is it gives me a period in between where I'll be able to gather my thoughts, see how it's going, and possibly change it depending on how the students are reacting to the project. Also, say if I had planned for all the students to make the same type of stairs, which is a cut string, with cut string stairs, just I'm going to make the stringers of the MDF, and treads I have offcuts of birch ply. Just in case any students decide they're going to change that and do something different, this period in between will give me a chance to cut out material and have material ready for them, without rushing or or putting myself at risk. So this is planned to be taught in a very active, constructivist class, meaning students are going to be making connections to information and their own meaning to it. For example, this can be done through experimentation and research. So the portfolio has an awful lot of has two aspects where the students are going to be researching by themselves, but in the blank portfolio that we can see here now, I just give an explanation of what we need to research roughly and explain the connection between our calculation here, and then students are just told they'll insert slides depending on what they find is important to research. Now, as a teacher, we like to think we should be thinking of ourselves as a facilitator. That doesn't mean give this portfolio to students and then let them sit there for an hour and think, oh, what am I going to do here? What that means is we should be kind of dropping hints and pushing students towards the right type of experiments, or using class discussion, trying to get students to realize what's important. So for a calculation, we need to know risers and goings, okay? But we know that the 550 and the 700, that's an average stride. Could we just use that average stride, or will we experiment, and where would we get an average stride from? How do you get an average? So we can bring up our literacy and our numeracy. What is an average? That'll be our literacy. How do we get an average? You have to get its own many and divide it by 100 and all that. So the students will be able to actually tell us that. They should be able to tell us that. If they can't, well then we have an opportunity to teach them. But we should be able to talk about this and get that going. The portfolio can really be broken into two main parts. So section 1 will be kind of the guided section, where the students are given, they're told the contents that they should be in it. Apart from the video analysis, stride, finding and scale, they're going to have to figure that out and they can put them in themselves. But the students are told they need to do a sketch of the stairs, given all examples. All measurements will be fine to scale, they know that. Then they're told, using the area below, explain where your measurements are coming from. So they have to realise then, okay, we can't get these yet because we need to figure out how to scale it down. That's where they get told exactly what they need to research and roughly how they're going to have to do it. And from that point on, we come into the second part of the portfolio, where it's guided experimentation. So where the teacher is the facilitator. So like we were talking about before, where we'll be able to discuss with the class and try and dig up what they feel should be done, and how they're going to need to find different things, like your average height, divide, or get an average height of a student in their class, and get that height divided by the height of our model. And then bring it to the closest decimal, and that'll give us our ratio for our staircase. So in this case it was a ratio 1:6, and we can see that through the calculations on the completed student portfolio, which we can see here. However, the teacher should guide the group towards certain research and allow them to discover experiments needed. So that's another concrete experience. It's we can either take away the concrete experience here and not guide the students. We can just say, this is what you do, but there's no developmental learning in that, where the students are experimenting for themselves. They could be just nearly rote learning, or just doing what they're told then, whereas experimenting and giving that concrete experience will hopefully take this activity from the short-term memory and bring it into the long-term memory, where students might not remember an exact measurement of how thick a string array is, or exactly what a scale model is, but they should be able to remember, oh, we were looking for a scale. How do I do scale? Oh, I remember. I had to measure my height, get the height of that lad, divide it down. Maybe that'll help them sometime in the future. It might not be in the construction exam, it might not even be in their maths exam, but this is learning for the future, learning for life is what we're trying to use. So for assessment then, this portfolio, because the students can change and do as they feel to try and display their knowledge and their learning as best they can, there is no rubric set saying you need to have this, this and this. What I'm going to be going with is a traffic light system, and I'm going to be focusing on some self-assessment as well. So for the traffic light system, it's red, amber, green. Red is going to be based on if the students have showed no learning, their model is very poor, and they're just ticking boxes as they're going down. Possibly these would be the students waiting until everyone else has it done, going around having a look and just copying it, where you can see there's no actual learning done by them. That'll be a red. An amber could be, say they make a really good model, calculations are a little bit off, so our scale isn't right, but they had the right idea and they were working towards it. And a green would be where the students had full understanding, or they started off with no understanding and developed on to the best that they could be. That their scale could still be slightly off, but they have developed and they have worked and they do understand it. So a situation like that would still be touching an amber, but you could explain to students that they'd be a green if they had get their calculations right, and that could just be something for them to look at in the future. Also regards self-assessment, we could get the students just through discussion at the end of our first class or at the end of our second class when the model is finished, and we can get them discuss how they feel like their practical skills are, and were they able to cut the line straight that they wanted to cut straight, like, do we need to spend more time on that in the future with just simple tasks, so for getting them ready for, say, the practical day exam in sixth year, or even a perfect opportunity for self-assessment and peer assessment is when they're marking out the stringers and even cutting out the stringers. Say when they're marking out the stringers, they can mark out for accuracy using marking equipment. I can mark out one stringer, John can mark out the other stringer, and we can swap them around then and double check each other's measurements of our work and drawn and see how it goes. That's a really good and simple way. Same with when we have our stringers cut out, we can pass them on, check, see if we can cut lines straight. Did mark which lines we cut first. Did we get better as we went along, or did we get worse as we went along cutting the straight lines? We should get better. So overall, it's a very effective problem-based task that can be used to develop literacy and numeracy in many fun and engaging ways. And the guide that I've given is a very basic guide and can be interpreted by the teacher in relation to their own classroom, but I would really recommend that this is kept in the constructivist learning format, as it allows for students to actually make connections with the learning and meaningful connections. So they're not just going to learn that this is a stringer. They should be able to make a connection that the stringer is with holes in the thread, and the thread was this size, and they'll be able to develop all this with their own meaning, not just a definition from a book, where they can understand their own meanings. So thanks very much for listening. My name is Macklin Scally, and my student number is 151 46545.